Recently, I've been explaining to people how my poetry journey has been going. I am exploring multiple art forms during my time of creative freedom this year, mainly dressmaking and poetry being the two main art forms. And I've been explaining to people, especially on the poetry side of things, where I'm getting stuck. And I thought that it would be helpful to discuss this in the next episode of The Sovereign Creative. My name is Philippa, and I've launched this podcast to essentially help myself and other people reclaim their entitlement to a creative career, to help us unpack limiting beliefs around money and financial stability, and help us actually pursue the lives that we want and to claim them back because it's what we deserve. As mentioned, my primary form that I can see myself making money from in future is poetry, and alongside my dressmaking, I'm trying to figure out essentially how to create a world for the audiences that I want to reach to inhabit. So for me, combining the poetry aspect and then what I'm wearing is a key part of that journey, and I've been excited to explore that. But I wanted to talk about what I'm calling the poet's predicament, which is to do with how we get to a point where we can get something published, especially when it comes to getting something published with somebody reputable. So, after speaking with friends in the publishing industry and other people who have had experiences either getting poetry published or having to kind of pursue self-publishing in some shape or form, is a thing that has started to bother me a little bit. And again, I don't know how to solve this. If anybody else has any ideas in the comments, especially if you are a poet and you're further along in your journey, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to hear it. So my predicament is that I want to be able to share my work online to help build up a larger audience and reach more people. So far with my dressmaking, that's been quite easy to do because again, I'm making something, I'm sharing it, and often it's something that I'm making that is quite delightful for me to wear, and I really enjoy wearing it, and then that obviously gets a lot of positive feedback. But when it comes to sharing my poems, especially my new work that I've been sharing within this world, um, I can't actually post these things on social media if I'm trying to get them published and submitted in magazines and competitions. More often, there is a stipulation for these competitions that the work cannot be published anywhere, including online and on your own social media. So, therefore, if you want to increase your chances of getting published, um, you actually can't you can't post the thing on social media because otherwise it's then technically not exclusive to that magazine anymore. And then on the other hand, I've been having as part of these discussions, one of the things that I have personally seen and experienced and I've been influenced by is people with platforms typically go on to sell books. Either they kind of partner up with a publisher for some and they self-publish for others, and that typically costs a lot more money that they only have later on down the line. But you need then, if you want to publish a collection without having to wait for competitions and magazines to recognize you and give you opportunities, that you then need to then build a social media platform so that you can guarantee that your work will sell. I haven't come across a poet who has done it in the way that I think would resonate with me, on that I would like to do it yet. And I suppose maybe starting this podcast is maybe a step in that direction. Primarily because I'm getting a bit fatigued by short form content, and I find that once I've uploaded a TikTok and or an Instagram reel showcasing something that I've made, I find that I get stuck on there because I want to see what people have to say. I want to hear people's feedback, and then I get stuck doom scrolling. So YouTube for me is something that I'm exploring to be able to pursue kind of more long form ways of thinking, be able to get my thoughts out in a more kind of nuanced and coherent way, and be able to spend more time with the audience that I want to be able to help on this journey of claiming back your creative sovereignty. So I think maybe this could be my way of doing it, but I'm just confused as to how people do it or where people are starting. And also then it then means that if I want to then try and do both, how do I share my poetry in both mediums? Do I have to wait until something's rejected from a poetry publication to then be able to post it on social media, or can I even perform something that I, on say an open mic night, that I then can't submit to a competition if I want to put the video footage online. It's just a bit of a messy situation, and I'd love people's thoughts on that. The other reason why I wanted to talk about this today is this idea of like industry recognition, and how, especially within the circles of poetry, I can imagine it's also similar in other art forms, especially things like theatre, but the concept of being recognized by a publisher or picked up by a big name is something that's still very important. And enabling, like, and at the end of the day, really, that's what enables somebody to then go on to publish, because they've been selected and chosen by a reputable publisher, or they think that there's something in there that audiences want. But I also know from experience, like from kind of like personal experience and kind of hearing things, and then also learning a bit about the publishing industry myself, is that the people behind the publishing industry are also just human, and they sometimes make a ton of mistakes. They'll sometimes pick up a book that they think is absolute gold and then it flops. So I want us to kind of take industry recognition not with a pinch of salt, because I can recognize how valuable it is, and I recognize that opportunities can come from that, especially opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't be able to fund yourself. But what I would like to ask us is, how can we do this without industry recognition, without begging to be seen or begging for somebody to give us that award or stamp of approval in order to be able to help our work reach millions of people? I do believe there's this concept that I think is quite elitist, in my opinion, this concept of the social media poet, how people that got their break on social media then go on to publish and make money from their books and things. That because social media doesn't necessarily have this stamp of approval on it, or that it's not got a third party big name, you know, to be able to share that seal of approval, I think is something that like I think that idea obviously debunked now, in the sense that people that have social media careers are able to create art and able to distribute it to an audience of hundreds of thousands of people and make sales from that. So categorically it's not true. I think maybe the reason why maybe kind of old school poets have that perspective and that view is because they've been begging for decades to be seen by an industry that is constantly only selecting a select few people to publish, to platform, to give their seal of approval as a rising star. And now seeing that people on social media are actually making money off of it, which is, I thought, was the aim, right? If you want to get published, it's because you want to make money distributing your work. You want to make money off of the labor that you've put into crafting beautiful poems. You'd think that seeing people do social media and actually make money out of it, that other poets would want to get involved and would want to explore how that might work for them. But I think what holds them back is that limiting belief of that they haven't been able to do it for years. So when they see somebody else do it, it's, you know, it could be a little bit of jealousy. It might be also just a bit of frustration at their own journey, or the things that they believe, or the things that they've been chasing that turns out maybe actually isn't paying off, or hasn't paid off in the way that we expect. So yeah, I'm going to keep this episode short because I wanted to make sure that I covered this topic today. I've decided that I'm going to try and start doing these episodes weekly. I think that this has been a really, really helpful forum so far to get my words out, and a couple of my friends have also said that it would be helpful to hear things like this. So I'm going to start doing this weekly. I'm going to be recording on a Wednesday afternoon and uploading on a Wednesday evening. So I hope you enjoy it. Also, another reminder based on last week's episode, I forgot to mention that I did put a petition in the description of the video. And if you would like to sign it, please feel free to visit the video in this corner to go and sign the petition to stop the University of Exeter cutting 500 jobs, 80% of which are in the humanities department. I would really appreciate it. And lastly, I would like to figure out how to create a space for people to share their work across all disciplines. I think I might do this on Patreon. I'm going to see how I feel about it, but I'd like to create a space where people that come towards this podcast and gravitate towards this podcast are able to share what they're doing across all art forms, whether it's dressmaking, poetry, visual art, music, etc. I think I like the idea of doing one chat to just kind of just share the stuff, and then the other chat to maybe like advertise, but with certain parameters, or encouraging you guys to think specifically about who your art is for, who you think would enjoy it, and therefore who it is relevant to. Because obviously in a space with other creatives, it can be a bit overwhelming, and sometimes you think, oh well, in order to create, I also need to support other creatives. But sometimes there are just certain things or certain forms of art that just don't resonate with us because it's not for us, and that's fine. So let me know if you are interested in something like that. To definitely let me know in the comments. Please feel free to subscribe and like the video. I would massively appreciate it. It would help me know whether or not these videos are of actual use to anybody. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your evening. My name is Philippa, and this has been The Sovereign Creative.